Good day everyone. Today I have a doomer rant about why Wilds sucks on PC, and so do most modern AAA games. First up, a little backstory on DLSS. With the DLSS announced, I originally believed it was gonna die off like physics, and like TAA, stayed the optional ass garbage looking standard for games to run better on toasters. Not too long thereafter, I realized from playing Black Ops Cold War, 50 FPS gain with terribly awful looks, even on quality, that was my first DLSS impression, kinda shit. Difference might be smaller on 4K or 1440p, but at that point, it's become yet again a luxury and not a necessity, and that's a big and important difference to make. I could still run on 100 plus FPS on mixed settings anyway, so I didn't mind too much, as the additional frames were for me too, only a luxury. AAA studios, however, don't get the memo of that important distinction and abuse it as a necessity and not as a luxury. 60 FPS on a 3050, so there you go. Only that it's using DLSS 3 on performance, on lowest settings, on 720p. But who cares, right? It seems really like studios cheap out on optimization and smart design choices and apply upscaling as a band-aid fix. Consider. The thing here is though, this isn't even a band-aid, as band-aids are still somewhat helpful. However, this piece of weeks expired half-decayed dog shit is more like a wet wrap you would have found on the garbage heap when looking through death shrouds of corpses that were found only after having molded out in the open for months than a band-aid. I do gotta say, as for fake frames, they are okay visually from everything I've seen and people have said, but this shouldn't be a thing on a polling rate below 60 Hz. If anything at all, having played games on delay-based netcode where you simply get input lag based on your ping, I wouldn't want it below 90 for any game that requires precise input. Now for the game's problem. Let's look at GPU prices. Those are in Europe, by the way. 4070, 550. Above that we have the 4070 Ti, so at least 800, or if you're going with AMD, 700 for the XT. We remember those figures. And then we look at people's benchmarks and find out, oh shit, the 4070 can't even run the game in stable 60 on native 1080p. It requires DLSS, which makes the game look like a splot of pus, and or FrameGen, which makes the game feel like a splot of pus. So even if you upgrade to a 4070 Ti or a 7900 XT, at this pace you're already going to be behind in a year, and the next AAA trash is going not to run at 60 on 1080p native. By the way, I'm leaving out the 4070 Super because that also can't run at 60, just so you know. But those are current gen cards. Next gen cards are at least a little bit more sane. The 5070 is only gonna be 650, and the 9070 XT, however much it will be, is probably going to be a good bet as a GPU for the coming future, unless you want RT. I shouldn't even have to mention that 1080p is still the most common resolution. The 4070 is clearly supposed to be giving you acceptable performance on 1440p, and some older games even 4K. The most funny thing is, the 3090, a 4-year-old, top-of-the-line GPU, 1000 plus bucks, something you'd buy to keep you playing on high settings for years and years to come, cannot even run the game on native 1440p at a stable 60 without the above shit. Looking at the recommended specs, the 1660 Super as minimum requires FSR and lowest settings on 720p just to have the game remotely playable. Then there's the 4060, which also needs FrameGen and lowered settings to obtain a fake stable 60 FPS just on 1080p. This makes it the first game in my very own experience I was looking forward to that fell victim to big publishers deciding they rather stick up the biggest used and AIDS-covered Bad Dragon than give their studio a little extra time and resources to make them run acceptably on not low-end but mid-range hardware. I know Dragon's Dogma had the same problem, but luckily I wasn't too interested in playing it, and there are only more to come. With new insider previews coming out, everyone is only ever dancing around the elephant in the room, merely mentioning fixed bugs and such. No talk about performance. And now they announced the second beta and said, Oh, well, shit, the performance improvements haven't made it in, or even the feedback that was given to us. What does that all sound like? They haven't done jack shit yet. And with the second beta not having originally been planned, it's as obvious as it can be. They can't fix it, or they don't want to fix it. The game's 1 month before launch. So copers who said, it's only a beta, which is a bullshit statement by the way, this kind of shit is always nothing but a PR move. Same with labeling things early access. You can just go suck a dick somewhere now, because guess what, looks like I was right. So, whilst might be the first Monster Hunter game since I started hunting and as far back as 2009, I'm going to skip out on. Hell, I bought a Wii U back then, just to play 3 Ultimate. But guess what, it only set me back a few €100, not almost $1,000. Maybe, once the expansion hits and we have the RTX 6000 series and RX 10000 series, I might not be feeling as retarded to buy a 6070 or 10080 XT in order to play this trash for $500 less. That is, unironically, a quarter of a very cheap used car. To conclude, I have some sad news. Every fucking one is already hyped for this game. At the very least, I'm glad to see other veterans also dunking on this, and well done Rise too, for being too beginner friendly. So there's at the very least that, because bro, the handholding is only getting more and more insane, it's stupid. Sure, it makes sense to sell yourself out for more numbers, that's what being in business is all about, but boy does it ever suck for loyal fans to be ass fucked like that in almost every fucking franchise. Most AAA PC gamers do have a 4080 or 4090 and spend $600 for GPUs each year on average, since RTX prices only have been inflated too, since companies just vultured onto numbers when COVID and crypto hit and use them as excuses. There is no future to hold out to. Boycotting won't stop Nvidia anymore. They're making most of the money without gamers' help anyway. Gone forever are the days of the 660 Ti or the 1060, where just a bit of money carried you through years of gaming on high settings. It's bad now, but hey, it's only worse to get, especially since consoles exclusively rely on upscaling now. As one thing you can do though, your backlog is a real thing. Dauntless is now on Steam, and I hope they fix their quote-unquote update, or rather downdate. Or you can play older games like Portable Third, 3 Ultimate, Double Cross, Gen Ultimate I mean, 4 Ultimate, or Freedom Unite. Go check them out, they're really nice, I love them. Especially Portable Third. That's it, loves. Iterasai.
Are you prepared for what's next?